Thinking Out Loud podcast. You know what this is, and you know who I am. It's your boy J Lip, and we back with another edition of Talk That Talk Tuesday. I got my wife in the building, Mrs. Lip. Mrs. Lip, what's good with you, baby?
I'm doing well, blessed and highly favored as always.
Amen to that. Now, let's dive straight into it. We talked recently about some things that we both enjoy and we both like to have. And one of those things that I enjoy and I like to have are some nice pair of kicks. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And with that being said, one of my favorite pair of kicks, most recently, happens to be those designed and manufactured by the name of Jordan. Correct?
Yeah, I know it.
Okay, so with that being said, I want to ask you this weekend, this Saturday, one of the most highly anticipated pair of J's this year are coming out, and you know I gotta get them. You know I need them. Win like '96, Gem Red, Retro 11s. I need that in my life. I need that in my life.
You need it. You don't need it. You
What?
want it really
Speak,
bad.
speak on it. Speak on it. What do you mean by not need it? I
This
need
is
it.
my issue. This is my issue. Everybody can talk all day long about the quality of these shoes, blah, blah,
Mm-hmm.
blah. I've always thought, one, they're super ugly,
Whoa, 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 whoa,
personally.
whoa, whoa. You
I've
think
never
all
seen a pair
Jordans
of
are super
I've
ugly?
never seen a pair of Jordans that I like. I dislike the shape of them, most of the
What?
designs. Like
What?
I don't like them. And
Oh my
given the fact
God.
that I don't like them, I think they're just generally unattractive shoes.
What?
There's also, I think, a culture around them where you don't even use them like shoes. Like you hear of
What you
people who like
mean?
wear them once a year or just occasionally, and there's just, I mean, God forbid they ever get scuffed or you ever actually walk in them like a normal person. I mean, you're
Dog.
paying over $200 for a pair of shoes that you can't even wear like a pair of shoes. Like, give me a break. So, and then aside from all of that, I feel like they're super duper hyped up. That's why they're super duper expensive. Nike's marketing team has done a fabulous job of creating exclusivity around them. So everybody waits for the release and like wakes up super early in the morning and makes side deals with their friends to help them get a pair of these shoes. And I just feel like the whole culture around them and also the price around them for what I feel like you're getting, which is more an idea than an actual good shoe. I just, I don't like any of it. None of it, never have, probably never will.
Okay, first off, you're dead ass wrong. And the reason why you're dead ass wrong is because you can't say that every pair of Jordans that's ever been released are ugly. That is one
The
of the
ones that
most.
I've seen all the ones that you have. I've seen other ones that you've wanted, and you ask me every time I look at them, what do you think about these shoes? I'm like, I think they're ugly. I think they're ugly and they're overpriced. That's what I say every time. I don't like them. I don't like them at all.
I think that you're a little bit biased because of the price and because of what they represent, that you think they're ugly, not by design, but by what they represent. I think that
Well,
that's a fair
yeah.
statement.
I think all of it plays into the fact that I don't like the design of them. I don't like the price and I don't like the culture around these shoes, particularly when it comes to my lovely black men spending their black dollars on them. And
Oh,
I'm
here
like,
we go.
I feel like you speak with your money, and if that's what you highly value is these overpriced shoes, I mean, I don't think it says a lot of positive things about our values.
Okay, so let's speak on that. So, what do you feel like that says about our values as black men who enjoy celebrating the culture that is the greatness of Jordan and what he created as far as this whole marketing campaign over the course of decades? Them J's be cold, babe. You know I got some cold ones, and you like them. You
I
know they
don't
like. Stop,
I don't know why you
stop.
think. Okay,
Because you've
whatever.
seen
You
me
can think
wear
whatever
them.
you want.
Because you see
I've
me
seen
wear
you
them, and you
wear
be
them.
like,
I
"That looks
see
good."
the
Don't lie
pride
to the
and joy
people.
you have in wearing them, and you finally have something in your life that you're willing to take care of as far as your
Whoa,
clothing.
whoa, whoa,
Like that's
whoa!
cool and
Don't
everything.
come at me like
Listen,
that. Don't.
don't interrupt. All right, listen. I'm trying to say my
Hey,
point. My point is, I like them because you wear them and you like them. Like I don't like the shoe when you show it to me online and you tell me about how you got to get up and be ready at 10 o'clock in the morning and how disappointed you used
yep.
to be before when you tried to get in on them and you couldn't and sending emails back and forth. Like all of that is just it's mess. There's not one thing I can think of in my whole life where it's a product that I have to have so bad that I got to wake up at a certain time to go get it, or I'm not going to get it, and it's never going to come around again, or it's not going to come around for years and years or whatever.
Correct.
Like, it's just, it's all marketing. It's all marketing. As someone who's a business owner myself, I use some of their tactics, exclusivity, or like creating
Oh.
anticipation, or yeah.
Oh.
But my product is available to everyone who wants it. It's available at the same time. There's plenty available for everybody. It's not at a price point where I feel like somebody is potentially making a decision between getting these shoes and something else much more important.
Like
Um,
what?
like anything, I think there are people out there who are irresponsibly purchasing these shoes, saying like, "Yeah, I'm gonna scrounge up 200 and some dollars for these shoes, but
And those
maybe I'm
people
gonna be eating
exist.
ramen for the rest of the
But
week or
but but that's
whatever."
but that's on them though. That's not on me or the people who are in a position to be
Well,
able
we're
to.
talking about a culture around these shoes, and I think people making irresponsible choices with their money in order to buy these shoes is part of the culture of these shoes. I do believe that.
Okay, so if we're looking at the shoes by themselves and we're to judge them based off of their their tangible value, they are great shoes as far as form,
They're
fit, and
not worth
function.
$220. They're not worth that much.
Okay, so let me ask you
They're
a
not.
question. So why do
Hmm.
women buy red bottoms that are thousands of dollars?
I don't buy them. I'm not part of that
I
culture, and
didn't.
I
Oh, I'm
can't.
sorry, my fault.
I
I
can't
gotta rephrase.
listen. This is
No,
what
no,
I'm
no, no,
saying.
no, no. I asked you
This
a
is what I'm
question.
saying. I
Hold
don't
on, hold
make,
on, hold on, hold on. I asked
and
you a
I'm
question. I
answering
said,
it. I'm
no,
literally
you're
answering it
not.
right
I
now.
said, why do women? I didn't say why do you not. I said, why do women?
Okay, let me speak, and I'm gonna answer
You
that
can speak.
question.
Just
What I'm
answer the
saying.
question.
Wow. Okay. Are you done?
Go
Okay.
ahead.
So I can't justify why those women buy those shoes either. I don't think that is a great choice for you to spend with your money. But if you just got it like that, I mean, whatever. Like I don't think that's a good idea either. I think commodities in our culture, luxury items in our culture have, for whatever reason, felt like they're more attainable to people who don't really have it like that. So, if you'd rather have one pair of red bottoms than 10, 20 pairs of just other decent shoes, I mean, that's a decision you're
Decent.
going to make. That's what I'm saying. You can get gorgeous shoes that are not Louboutins. You can get beautiful shoes and spend an equal amount of money, or spend less money and get other things too, like, or save it or invest in something. There's a lot of things that can be done with that money if you have it to spend. What I'm talking about specifically with Jordans, I feel like it's focused on a different demographic. It's not focused on the husbands of the women that buy Louboutins. That's not, I don't think that's the majority of the people that are buying Jordans. I feel like they're marketed towards middle class, potentially lower middle class, unfortunately, sometimes lower class men who say, to be a part of this echelon of our culture, I need to own these shoes. And I
Okay.
think that is just not, it's not right for us.
So can we be fair and say that there are people who are fans of the game, and to say that the game in and of itself has had a footprint placed in it by Michael Jordan. Therefore, the
But people
shoes.
don't buy these shoes to play basketball in.
Some do. Some do. Some people buy two pair. Some people buy one to
Oh,
stock and one
God.
to rock. That's what it's called.
Okay. All right. If that's how you want to justify it, that people are
I'm
actually
not
playing
justifying it
basketball
like
in these
that.
shoes. No, I'm just saying, if that's the route that you want to go, that people are buying these shoes to play basketball, okay.
Or maybe you just want to wear them because even though they're a basketball shoe, they're more of a casual kind of display of fashion.
But
And I
I
feel
feel
like
like those the shoes aren't even worn casually. Like, people don't
I
the shoes
do
aren't worn casually. They're displayed, they're left in boxes, they're like shrink wrapped and made YouTube videos out of. Like, people aren't
because you want to
necessarily
keep them
wearing these shoes.
fresh.
Yeah, you want to keep them fresh by not wearing them, but they're shoes. How does that work? They're
You know what?
shoes. They're meant to be worn.
I used to
I
think
feel like
like
people
that.
are treating these shoes like trophies. Like, they're putting them in like airlock boxes and taking pictures of
Yes,
them and
to
saying,
make
you
sure
can't actually see the shoe, but look at this picture because I do own the shoe, but you
to
can't see it.
but to
Just
make
look at the
sure
picture.
that they don't have any type of oxidation, degradation, to make sure there's no stains on them,
They're
to make sure to
shoes.
make sure that you can
They're
rock them when ain't nobody else got
shoes.
them. That
They're shoes.
exclusivity. There's
They're
something to be said
shoes.
about exclusivity when it comes to a product, babe. This is the marketing. genius
Yeah,
of
that's what I'm
America.
saying. That and I recognize that. I truly believe that there are some geniuses behind Nike who have made these shoes feel so exclusive because I mean Nike could I feel like those kinds of people could work for any industry and they could make like diaper bags feel super exclusive and you never even use them even though you got kids. Like
Diaper
there's
bags.
this is what I'm saying. You
Diaper
could
bags.
probably you could probably use any product. You could probably use any product and create this kind of buzz around it. So I my hat is off to those people. But ultimately as a consumer, I'm like, these are shoes. And I'm not gonna pay such a high price tag for shoes that ultimately I'm not actually expected to wear.
Okay, so what if you are like me? You know me. So I'll order my J's. I get my J's. I rock them. I don't stock them. I don't resell them. I'm size
Hmm.
15. That's what I do. I love them. What is the problem with spending your money on something that you appreciate that happens to be a fashion statement within your own self reflection? Like it's not about oh I'm about to stun on
I
these
think
niggas.
that in of itself
I'm not
is
going to
not
the mall
necessarily an
rocking
issue.
them. I'm not going to different places like, oh, I got the new such and such. Oh, you ain't touching me. Like, I have the same access as anybody else. So why can't it just be I enjoy something that's a high priced luxury item? This is like one of those one things, just like a female, I'm sorry, or like a woman
A
who
woman.
enjoys buying bags, the Birkin bags and the Michael Kors and all that
I
stuff.
feel the same way about those. I feel the same way about those
You
bags.
want to be honest? You want to be
If you're
honest?
buying a product just as a status symbol, I'm gonna take issue with that. Did I
Okay.
cut out there?
No, you didn't cut out. All I was
Oh.
gonna say was you wanna talk about what one of your most let me say what was the one thing that I bought you that made you literally jump up and down in the air. In the air, I saw your feet lift the ground. What
Mm-hmm.
did I buy you
I
that
very
made you
well
no 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 no
remember.
no? What tell the people what did I buy you that made you jump up and down in the air?
I got a Coach bag when I was in college.
Oh,
When people in
oh,
college were not buying Coach
oh,
bags.
snap. You got a Coach bag.
Yeah,
So you
that I wore
oh,
and used religiously for like 5 years straight. And the
right.
only reason I'm not using it right now is because I just got a new bag. And then I
Okay.
switch them
Oh, a
out.
new bag. Oh,
But I use it. I
ooh,
use it. I don't
ooh,
listen.
ooh. Go ahead.
I use that bag religiously. I used it constantly. The second it came out of the box, I took all my stuff out of my old bag. We were already out for the day. I took the stuff out of my old bag and I put it in my new bag. And I use that bag every day for everything. I would carry a backpack on campus and my bag because I was like,
Got it.
I got this bag and I was very excited about it. That bag didn't sit in a box. I didn't
Okay.
take pictures of that bag and just send it to my friends and say, hey, look at this bag that I got. That bag got much more use than what you paid for it.
And what do I wear every day?
Your chain, your
On
glasses,
my feet.
shoes.
What type of shoes?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
You want to play this game? Really? You gonna say you don't know?
Look,
What do I wear
look.
every? Okay, babe. What did you bought a shoe rack from IKEA this weekend? What
Yeah,
was
because
that
them
shoe
shoes
rack?
was stacking
What
up
what was that
in
shoe rack
places where
full
I
of?
needed to walk.
What brand of shoe was that shoe rack full of?
It was full of Jordans.
And what do I wear every day?
Jordans.
Okay. So in the same breath, you
I
use
think
your bag.
you are
Oh, I'm
one
sorry.
case.
My
You're
fault.
a case
My
study.
fault.
You're one
I
case
made a
study of
mistake. Did I
Jordan's
make you think? Did
consumers.
I make you think I was asking a question? I'm sorry.
I
I asked
wasn't
you.
answering a question. What I'm
Right.
saying
I
is that
wasn't
you're
done with
one
my
case
statement
study
though.
of people who wear Jordans. I
Right.
don't think if we're talking about the culture of
Yep.
Jordans,
We are.
I think that's an exception more than the rule
Yeah.
when it comes to
When you used
Jordan's
to hear about
consumers.
when you used to hear about people, kids getting killed and shot, and
Hmm.
people being trampled over at the mall and all that. Terrible. That's a terrible situation to be in. However, the game to change. Like
We're just gonna gloss right over that. We're just gonna
no, I'm just saying the game
okay.
to change. Like
Okay.
we in a different ballpark right now. Like right now, like you can get what you need if you need to get it. That's the point blank
So
period.
you don't think there's people still out there getting like jumped and shot for their shoes
Get them
for these
online. Get them
Okay, but then
online.
you can't wear them in certain neighborhoods in certain places because people are going to take them from you.
I don't
And
know
I feel
about
like
that.
that is part of the culture of Jordans because they've been made to seem so exclusive. They're a luxury item that's unfortunately purchased by people who don't have the luxury of being able to wear their
So you
shoes.
can focus so hard on the fact that Jordans are overrated as far as price and reflection in the culture, but when it
Hmm.
comes to the bags, the red bottoms, Louis Vuitton,
I already
Louis
told
Vuitton,
you that I
right?
put
You
those
said that
when you
those are
I
in the
feel
same
like
breath, right? Those are in the same breath.
yes.
Okay,
Yeah, I feel the
okay,
same way about all of those products.
okay.
I do.
So you don't want none of them.
Mhm. It's not that I don't
No,
want
do
any
you
of
want
them,
any
but
of
I'm
them?
not going to buy them and leave them in a box. If
Okay,
I
and I
purchase an
don't do
item and
that.
I don't feel comfortable wearing them in my own neighborhood, I'm not going to buy
And
them.
I don't
If
do
I'm
that. I rock mine. I don't do that. Why are you?
I know, and I already acknowledge that.
Okay, so the whole point is if you rock your bags and your red bottoms, your Louis Vuittons and everything else, if you rock them
Hmm.
because you enjoy them and I rock my J's because I enjoy them, we're equal.
People
That's
are
all.
going to do whatever it is they do. That's not going to make me like Jordans anymore. I feel like there are a lot of aspects of the culture around Jordans that are just unsavory in my opinion. And they're still ugly.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and just agree to disagree on that one. Just
Fine.
agree to disagree.
Fine.
Take a sip of your tea. Okay,
Mhm.
moving forward. Ugh, just like your cup says. Ugh.
Ugh.
Ugh. I want to talk to you about what's been going on as far as this new controversy in Libya, and it's not really new because it's been going on for years, decades, really.
Mhm.
But there's been an issue that's been brought to light most recently on social media when it comes to the travesties that are happening in Libya right now, in Africa, about slave trade. We're talking about
Yeah.
slave trade in Africa.
In
So in
2017.
2017. And the sad part about it is, after doing a little bit of research, the slavery in Africa never truly stopped. And I
Mm.
challenge anyone listening right now, do your Googles, do your research. You'll find out the slave trade never really stopped. But what has been a part of this new opportunity to ramp up that type of activity has been the killing and the dismantling of the Gaddafi regime that was in Libya. And so the
Mhm.
plan was for America, basically, Gaddafi will wipe him out, will take out his dictatorship, which was a cruel one. If you look up the details, he was a very cruel dictator.
Right.
However, taking him out, the plan was supposed to be for America to put in place a new power structure. That ain't worked. And so what's happening now is you basically created the wild wild west, for lack of better terms, in Libya, where it's anything goes, and people who have the influence, and I say influence with air quotes because the influence could be weaponry, the influence could be some type of intimidation, the influence can be anything that takes you out of your zone and basically says, I'm taking you as a person and making you a slave. Again,
Mm.
after all these
Mhm.
years, they are taking more Africans in Libya and creating a new slave trade that we are not aware of as far as Americans because it doesn't touch us. But my concern is it's happening. Now, is it the fact that it's not touching us is the reason why we're not talking about it as a society? Because we never have any other problem jumping into another country's problems when it
Mm.
does impact us financially. And that's my
Yeah.
question to you. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, clearly, since we're even having a conversation, the conversations are being had here in the States. I think where we're dropping the ball as a community, as a society, is the people who have the opportunity to spread this message, the larger media. I feel like that's where this conversation is not being had. I feel like that's the place where
Okay.
people in power here in the States could make some kind of impact. The first step is awareness, and there are still millions of people who don't even know this is going on. I feel like there are some smaller news outlets who kind of broke the story, and not even
Hmm.
necessarily broke the story because, like you said, it's been going on. I mean,
Right.
it's never actually stopped. Um, but this story just became, has been brought to our awareness more recently through smaller news channels and also through, some of the black media, I think, and that's where these conversations are being had. But unfortunately, kind of the wider spread media has not picked up on the story for whatever reason.
Well, that's the question. What is the reason why? Like, why is it that if there's a bombing in a train station across the sea, we can hear about that and we have to send
Mm.
prayers up. If there's a shooting at a country music gathering in Vegas, we hear about that domestically. But why don't we hear about such a travesty that to me goes against every foundation of the core of our Declaration of Independence, which in and of itself could be debatable given when it was written. However, we are free as people in this world. Point blank, period. So there should be nobody that could put a gun to your head and sell you to somebody else. But that
Of
is what's
course, yeah.
happening in Libya right now. And it seems
Hmm.
like people on social media, the people that we surround ourselves by, and the news media care more about what Donald Trump is saying on Twitter every morning when he takes a shit versus what's going on to these people who are actually being torn from their homes and their families and forced into enslavement. Why aren't we putting together some type of activity or some type of agenda to address what's going on nationally? And I get the fact that we're not the super police, we're not the world
Sure.
police,
Yeah.
but we pick and
But I
choose
mean,
when we want to
when
be.
this is a
We
something
pick and choose
happening
when
with
we
the,
want to be.
we absolutely do, because I mean, unfortunately it is all politics, and we have to consider the people who are in power right now and what they're deciding are their pet projects when it comes to, sticking our noses in other countries' businesses. Um, so we don't have the people in place right now to care about what's happening in Libya anymore. We just don't. We just don't. If we had, and I think if anything, what I see with our politics is we don't jump into fights that maybe we feel like we can't win.
Mm,
Um,
mm,
so you know, my little pea brain
yes.
is like, okay, what would we be able to do? Like, I'm not a politician. I'm not, super well versed in foreign affairs, but my question would be, like, us as the United States, what would we be able to do truly to impact this kind of situation? I don't have any answers, and I wonder if, these questions are being posed on Capitol Hill. Someone's got to be aware of it. Hundreds and thousands of people work in our political system. They know what's going on. For whatever reason, they've chosen not to
Yeah.
take an active role in reporting it, or being involved with it, sending any of our leaders to speak with anyone who can make any kind of impact.
But the
So, I
problem is
mean,
you can't send a leader to speak to a country that has no leadership. That's the problem that I think we at right now. Like,
no, I completely agree. And I think that's one of the hurdles that we have to deal with, and why I believe that we're not going to get into a fight that we feel like we can't win.
okay. And I feel that. And that kind of segues into my personal grievance when it comes to social media in general. Like right now, I wouldn't consider us to be millennials. Like we're born in the 80s. I think millennials technically are born
We
sometime.
we are considered millennials. We're
We're
considered old
I I
millennials.
I refute that title because a
Okay.
millennial to me is someone who's born in the 90s. Like we kind of grew up in the 90s, but we weren't born in the 90s. So like to me, for instance, like I look at it like this. There was a point in time where I remember coming home as a kid, and every day on the news, it was the update to the O.J. Simpson trial. Every day. I remember coming home, and my father, my mother, my grandparents, whoever I was with at the time, the main thing on the evening news was the latest of the O.J. Simpson trial. Like, that's a whole different generation to me. So
Sure.
I feel like during that time, you had the newspaper, you had television news, and maybe radio if you listen to morning radio like my grandfather did. Besides that, you had a very limited scope of information where you were able to get such little but very factual information that you would process it and then form an opinion. And now I feel like there's an influx of an overflow. Like everything is coming at you a mile a minute because you
Yeah.
got Instagram, you got Twitter, you got Facebook, you got if you
Yeah,
fuck
the
with it,
news cycle has just
World.
gotten so much shorter,
Exactly.
just because information is constantly flowing. I mean, before you had your morning news and your evening news, and anything that happened in between, you had to catch up in the morning or the evening.
Right.
Now you have news down to the minute. You've got live streams of basically everything, live tweeting constantly, between YouTube and Facebook and Instagram, and just everywhere. There's just news constantly available, and more news channels being created all the time.
I guess my question for you is it a benefit or a detriment to our society, specifically black culture and society, is it a benefit or a detriment the fact that we have so much access to information? I personally believe it's a detriment because I
Mm.
think that it's too much too fast too soon and just an overflow that we can't really focus on one thing. And the example that I like to use is the Flint water crisis. We
Mm.
have not heard a solution to that. Like at
There
current
hasn't been
day,
one. They're still struggling through that.
December 4th, 2017, December 5th, 2017, December 6th, 2017. There's not a daily conversation that's going on right now when it comes to the resolution of the Flint water crisis. Hell, look at the hurricanes that occurred this year. Have we heard any updates to the status of the victims of the hurricanes that transpired this year? No. But we were getting a day by day, blow by blow, play by play summary every morning on the news during the week or two that it was considered to be a hot topic. And so,
Well, I think what we're challenged with is we have the news that we're given. So the news that's placed in front of us,
right?
through through TV, through radio, NPR, all of that stuff. And then you have the news that you can find. If you wanted to get an update on the Flint water crisis, somebody's reporting on it somewhere. Somebody's written a blog post. Somebody's done like a 5-minute video somewhere. We could find out what happened, but we'd have to find that ourselves.
But that's my problem.
Um,
That's my problem, though. Why do we have to find something that's so important for us to be aware of? We
well,
were
I mean,
just donating water
yeah.
bottles to people
Yeah.
because the water out of their faucets was brown. So
But if you
did that
think about our
stop?
primary news sources, I mean, the news is your primary news source. So if we watch Good Morning America, we're watching basically 2 hours of news. And there's only so much that can be covered in those 2 hours. And they're going to pull the most topical topics, not every single one of them, but they're going to pull what they feel is, most important to their demographic in those two
It
hours.
sounds like you're justifying the capitalism of news
I'm
information.
not justifying it. I'm just explaining it. I don't think
Okay,
that's necessarily the best way to handle how news is disseminated.
not at
Particularly,
all.
no, I completely agree. I don't think that's the best way to handle it. But I do feel like, they focus on breaking news, they focus on politics, they focus on, big money matters and
All right.
business. So they're focused on their demographic. If we're watching news channels more focused on us as a culture, we're going to get different news.
But we don't have that. My main issue is
Agree.
you have one news outlet that I know of personally, and I appreciate anybody who's listening or watching this right now. Please share in the comments any other sources of information that you have that we can gather and learn and share from. But right now, the only thing that I know of is News One. News
Right.
One with Roland Martin premieres, I think, every day at either 8 or 9 a.m.
Mm.
That's mostly the time where most of us are at work. So the best that I
And
can
what
do,
channel is that on? Isn't that on cable?
I don't even know which. I think it's
I
on
don't even
TV
know.
One. It's on TV One.
Yeah, so it's
So
on a
we don't
cable
have
network.
right.
So
So we
yeah,
don't
we
have
don't
TV
even have
One.
it.
We don't have cable. So we don't have TV One. And so the
Hmm.
best that I can do is go to YouTube and look up the clips. The hot topics of what's
Right.
covered from a 2 hour broadcast that's basically consolidated down to three 10-minute videos. That's not
Yeah.
giving me the news. That's giving me a
Agreed.
panel table of debate that, yeah, it's interesting and it's great to hear, but
But
there's so
sometimes we
much
just
more
want the
going on.
facts.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I completely agree. I mean, if we think about, who owns the mainstream media stations, the news that comes on, network television, is owned by large conglomerate corporations, run
Yep.
primarily by um, people who are not of color, and they're paid by what they show
I'm gonna
in
leave it with
advertising dollars.
I'm gonna leave it with this. This is my last kind of. I always do a curveball at the end.
Oh God.
Do you agree or disagree with the fact that as a black, go ahead, sip that tea. Go, ugh, just, ugh. Do you agree or disagree with the fact that in current day America, being a black American, being black in America, you basically have to be responsible for two sets of lives. You have to be responsible for your news outlet, for the culture that you live in and the culture that you are of, and you also have to be cognizant of the information that's going on for the people who you're not a part of, yet it is the dominant culture in the society.
Yeah, I think as a person of color, as a black woman specifically, I do feel like I have to kind of straddle the line between what's important to me as a black woman and what's
Yeah.
important to me specifically as an American. Um, But I think, I understand the whole point of your question, but I think we also have to consider that any person who is not white straddles these same lines.
I
Asian people
disagree. I
straddle these. Oh,
disagree.
oh God, here we go. Here we go. Why do you disagree with me?
Because at the end of the day, if I go to work tomorrow, wherever I work, which I mean, it don't matter where I'm at. If I
Hmm.
interact with a person that's not of, if I inter, okay, I'm put it like this: if I interact with a person of color right now, and I get them on this episode right now, and I ask them a
Hmm.
question, and I say, "What do you think about the Cameron versus May situation?"
No, I'm not saying that they know
No,
our
no, no,
culture. I'm
no. You
saying they
asked me a
have to. No,
question.
no, no. Hold on, hold on. I'm saying they have to know their own culture as well as white culture, as well as mainstream culture. I'm not saying they have to know ours. They don't. Nobody does but us. And that's
Right.
my whole point. They have to know their own culture, just like we have to know our own culture, and then they have to know mainstream white culture. That's what I'm saying.
But that's a dual complex, in my opinion, because there are people in this society who are only concerned or only really need to know in their minds about their culture. But
White
if you,
people, white people, they're the only ones that only have to know about their culture. Everyone else has to know both. At least to live in America, you do.
you do.
Yeah.
So you agree with that.
Yeah, because I said it.
Right. So my thing is, how do we change that? Because it's an extra burden as being
You
a
can't
black
change it.
American.
I don't think you can change
You
it
can't
because if
say
we
that.
tried to change it, we would lose our culture. If we try to assimilate our culture completely with white culture, we would lose ourselves. So I don't think we can change it and I don't think we should change it.
So you
There
don't
are always
believe?
going to be parts of black culture that white people do not and don't have the energy, don't have the interest in understanding, and
Damn.
that's I think that's how it's going to be. But I think there are parts of our culture that we do need to hold close to the chest, and I don't want white people to really be all up in our business like
I
at
see what you're
all.
saying. You don't want. You basically are like, look, it's the lesser of two evils. Either we put
It
the
is.
expectation on them to basically appropriate our culture and be all up in quote unquote the mix, where they're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh man, I can't believe what Cameron or Cameron Giles said to
Yeah.
Mason Betha
Yeah. See,
yesterday.
those are not conversations you actually want to have.
You're right.
They're not.
You're
So
right. And
you
word to
don't want it
killer.
either.
Word to killer. I think that, babe, you made a good point. I appreciate you. The Cameron Giles versus the Mason Betha situation, as we would call it, the Killer Cam versus Mace.
Right.
You're completely correct in regards to maybe there are some things that we want to keep exclusive, and we take pride in that. And not
We
exclusive as in
do.
we blocking somebody out. We're not blocking or stopping anyone from getting access to information, but it is something that we can take pride in. Know, you know what?
It
If you ain't
is.
up on it,
I
you
mean,
ain't
that's
up
the
on
truth.
it
That's the
for a reason.
definition of culture. It's
Yeah,
it's the definition of culture. It's what, in all honesty, differentiates us from others. And it's not a negative thing necessarily. It's just those are what define us and what we can take pride in.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you.
Appreciate. That's another one.
I appreciate
I
you. Love you.
love you too.
All right. With that being said, you know what this is, and you know who I am. Once again, your boy J Lip, thinking out loud. TOLpodcast.com. We got Mrs. Lip in the building. Mrs. Lip, anything you want to share with the people before we be out?
Well, just thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
Hell yeah. Thinking Out Loud podcast. And hold on. Talk That Talk Tuesday. And we out. All right. Love you, girl.
Love you too. Bye bye.
Bye.